and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be a book review of Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. So I read this as part of Trans Girl April. Read Along hosted by Kevie over at Say Kevie, where she encouraged us for the month of April to pick up lots of trans and non-binary authors. This has been on my list for ages because Alison Rumfitt is a trans author from the UK. It's a horror novel. They're like all my triggers, so I needed this in my life to read, and this so far is my book of the year. This is the book to beat, so I thought that I would do a separate video and chat to you about it so that it wasn't just getting lost in my wrap up, because I have so many thoughts on this book that I want to talk to you about. So this book is written from the two main characters' perspective, Alice and Isla, and they went to a haunted house when they were younger with their best friend Hannah, and Alice and Isla made it out of the house. Hannah did not. And then we get it from their perspective years and years later, and they only sort of reference what happened in the house. We get wee details here and there, but we don't fully know. And then the crux of it is that they get together again as adults and they decide that they're going to go back to the house to confront everything that happened to them when they were younger. And we get to find out obviously what happened when they were younger, and we get to see them going back now, and then a wee bit of their life after they did that. The haunted house in here is a character in the book, which is something that is so unique and so interesting. The house sort of represents fascists and fascism in our society, and so I thought it was really cool that Alison Rumfitt chose to give the house a voice, because fascism is alive and breathing and lives with us every single day, and so I thought that that was very cool. And so as well as getting chapters from Alice and Isla's perspective, we also get chapters from the house's perspective. That is genius in and of itself, let me just tell you. But the chapters for the house's perspective can sometimes be the most interesting chapters, and there's one in particular that I want to talk about a wee bit later on in the video. Essentially what happens to them in the house when they're younger then goes on to reflect who they are and how they act and how society treats them now that they are older. And that was such a really cool concept, and I really enjoyed that. And it was interesting to see, right, okay, well, this person's saying that this happened, so that's why they have this opinion, and this person's saying that this happened, so that's why they're acting in this way. And I thought it was done excellently. I've seen a lot of critique of this book with people saying that they wish that the bits in the haunted house was more of the book. I actually disagree with that, because this is such a character driven novel that I think that we needed all that length of time with the characters to really understand the complexities of this book, and it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed. More time in the haunted house would have been minted, as long as none of that was cut away, but I've seen people saying that they wish that the first half of the book was a wee bit shorter so that we could have had more time with the haunted house, and I disagree with that vehemently. We definitely need that. I really enjoyed the characterisation in this book. I think that Alice was a really great character. I think that you can really see how her experiences and her experiences with the house and her experiences being a trans woman have really shaped how she acts in social situations. And so she's very shy, very socially anxious, you know, sort of thinks that anybody who likes her or who is her pal is a wee bit of a jokester, and that they aren't really her pal, and it's going to be revealed like they've invited her for a laugh and things like that. And I really resonated with that. Obviously I am trans, however I suffer with crippling social anxiety, and so like I really resonated with that in Alice, and I thought that that was portrayed excellently. You know, sometimes social anxiety is portrayed in like crappy ways, and it almost makes the person who has that anxiety look a bit ridiculous, and I thought that it was done superbly in here. As somebody who deals with shit like this on a daily basis, I understand like the fear of ringing a doorbell and thinking, oh well, they've no answered and I didn't want to mill about outside for ages, so I'm just going to go home, like, and then like the person answering like literally 2 seconds later, but having all these thoughts going through their head. And so I really enjoyed that. I thought that Isla was a very, very interesting character. I think I found Isla to be more interesting than I did Alice. I'm going to get into spoiler territory now, so for anybody who isn't interested in this being spoiled, skip to the timestamp below where I sum up the book spoiler free. Isla is a massive transphobe, at the same time as being somehow the least transphobic person in the world. She's very outwardly transphobic, and she campaigns against trans rights. She considers herself a TERF, and that was very interesting to read, because this is obviously written by Alison Rumfitt, who is trans, and I actually felt like this was written in such a balanced way. I understand that this is a passionate debate and I get passionate about it myself, but I've seen some other books written by trans authors who have maybe had transphobia and had TERFs as characters in their books, and they're written like terribly, and it's done in such a malicious way, whereas I feel like Alison Rumfitt wrote Isla phenomenally, and she was a fully rounded, fully developed character, and that there wasn't any maliciousness there when she was writing that character. It was purely, this is a character and she is transphobic, but here's what I'm going to do with her character. And she had it be like, is Isla a terrible person because she's asking these questions and because she has genuine concerns about women's spaces, or is she in fact transphobic? And I thought that that was such amazing nuance, especially coming from a trans author, because I think that a lot of times when women are raising concerns, they are not always legitimate, but then when women are raising some legitimate concerns, certainly not about trans people, but about cis men who are rapists, who might abuse certain systems that are put in place, they are then automatically labelled a TERF. And I feel like Alison Rumfitt really tackles that in here, and it was just so nuanced, and like she just wrote it so phenomenally. Like, and I was just so surprised because it is something that is so, I guess, divisive and so argumentative and so hate-filled at the minute, that the fact she was able to just write it in such a, just like a nuanced way was absolutely phenomenal. And then there's this other side of Isla where she isn't presenting to the public, where actually all of the things that she claims to hate, she doesn't. She never once misgenders Alice. Alice is trans, and you know, she's known Alice her entire life. They have had a relationship, and you know, she always classes Alice as a woman unless she is protesting, and then she calls Alice a man. But even in her head, when she thinks back, she thinks Alice is a woman, so she can't be that transphobic. And then you know, there's certain porn choices that are involved, and it's like, right, okay, well, you're saying that you vehemently hate that, and you're using this in part of your argument as to why, you know, trans people are forcing their rhetoric and try to take over the fucking world, as if them having rights in any way negates yours. But then you're consuming it and you're paying for it, and that is what you enjoy. So it was really, really interesting to read, thoroughly interesting to read, and I really, really enjoyed Isla's character. Obviously disagree with anything transphobic that she said, but she was a thoroughly interesting character. And then the actual horror elements of this book and the house were written superbly. There's essentially both the girls think and have a memory that the other girl raped them in the house, and so Alice thinks that Isla raped her, Isla thinks that Alice raped her, and so that is why Alice is you know, a wee bit shy, and she really struggles to get over what happened to her, and she really struggles to form any sort of romantic relationships and any sexual relationships with a partner, because she's still harbouring this trauma. And Isla has used this story as a, this is why we can't support trans people, because this is what they do, which plays into all that right-wing rhetoric. And we don't know who's telling the truth, because like I say, we never actually get to find out. But then there is a really, really interesting chapter for the house's perspective before we find out what has actually happened, and it's like, well, who do you believe? Because you're taught you need to believe victims and you need to believe women, so then do you make Alice a man and no believe that she is a woman so that you can then support women and support Isla's version of events? Or do you support who, you know, has the most protected characteristics and who is going to be the most vulnerable in society and therefore has been more vulnerable to rape? And so in that case you would support Alice. Do you think that there is a right and wrong? Do you think one of them raped the other? Do you think that they'll maybe both just go get therapy and live happily ever after? And like, it was such an interesting chapter that just makes you think about the person that you are and why you believe a certain thing. And I've never really had that done in a book before, where it has been like just so stark and like, right, okay, here's all the different situations and all the different ways that you could believe one over the other. And I thought that again was so fucking genius. Like, it was brilliant, and I really enjoyed that. That is one of the standout chapters of the book for me, because I was like, holy fucking shit, this is awesome. And then when we find out what has actually happened, we get it almost like a split screen for their third friend Hannah, and she sees both like rapes happening and she's seeing both perspectives happening, and ultimately the house treats them the way that society would treat them, because the house is a fascist dictator and so they're women, so they were both raped. And I thought that that was very fitting, but you can see how they've both used their experiences to then go on and form their social views and how they vote politically. And it's so interesting, and it's not just transphobia that it does this with, it also really tackles race and immigration to an extent as well. You know, it talks a lot about, oh, I'm no racist, but you know, I voted for the BNP because I'm white and I want a job. And you know, like, it just touches on so many different things. There's a bit in here about Brexit as well, where, you know, it's talking about the fact that we voted for Brexit. I mean, Scotland didn't it? But anyway, nevertheless, like, we voted for Brexit. And you know, it's going on about how before a national pandemic we voted against our own immune system. We are that inherently racist that we knew these people had these jobs, we knew there was a pandemic approaching. Like, it was creeping death at this point where it was hitting, like there was a chance it was going to come here. We know how valuable these people were to our NHS, and we still voted, nah, fuck off, get back to your own country. Like, and it's galling to read. And the politics in here are so phenomenally written. I always maintain the horror that I enjoy the most is political, and I feel like horror is the proper genre where there is the best political commentary. Certainly the horror authors that I tend to read, because I just think horror has always pushed that boundary, whether it's in novels or whether it is in film or horror TV shows. I feel like it's always been so good at pushing the political aspect to it, because let's be honest, the most horrific thing in life is fascism and you know, shitty politicians making decisions for half the people that it represents. And so I loved that Alison Rumfitt really took that and ran with it. It was brilliant, and I think that no matter where you stand politically, you could read this and be affected. And I don't think that this is written to try and lure you or to your left. It just is what it is, and I loved that. And you know, there's a lot of good, great points in here that if you don't stand up for trans rights now, then what's going to happen when this protected characteristic is used against you, and what happens when that right is taken away from you? And can you really be a feminist if you didn't believe in trans rights? And can you really believe in XYZ if you don't believe in trans rights? And it was so brilliantly done, because I think that no matter who you are picking this book up, it would challenge an opinion that you have on something, it would challenge a view that you had on something. I think that it would challenge your protected characteristic and your identity and what makes you you, so that you can still resonate with the characters in the story. It is specific enough, but also broad enough that so many people could read it and relate. And that blew my mind, like absolutely blew my mind. Just, some of this reads more like a political essay than it does a fiction book, and sometimes I really hate that. I don't like when I am enjoying a story and then I'm feeling like I'm getting pulled away from it. But because the house is fascism, all these political essays fit in so smoothly that I didn't feel like I was getting pulled away from the story. It was actually enhancing it. And I feel like all the political essays that are in here and all the political commentary that is in here creates this ever-growing sense of dread, which obviously culminates in these guys going back to the house, which is phenomenal. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. In terms of the actual writing, you know, the horror parts, I thoroughly enjoyed that. They are brief, I feel. However, they are grotesque, which was brilliant. You know, their third friend Hannah, again, this is going to be spoiler territory here, so full warning. Their third friend Hannah, who goes into the house, who never comes out, gets physically bent into the shape of a swastika, and her bones and her joints and her ligaments and everything are all like popping, and oh, it was so fucking gross, but brilliant to read, absolutely brilliant to read. And you know, when they go back, the house again is described in this really dark, dank way, and their friend comes back, Hannah comes back, and she's still her like morphed Nazi self, and you know, it's so brilliantly written, it's horrific, but it is brilliant, and I thoroughly enjoyed those elements of that. But I can't deny what made this book superb to me was all the political commentary. It was fantastic, and I'm sure I said this in my wrap up, but I'll say it again. When I finished this book, I wanted to kick my door down and go start a riot. Like, it was such a phenomenal call to arms, and also just a fantastic thought-provoking novel. I really thoroughly enjoyed this, and I will pick up anything that Alison Rumfitt writes in the future. I thought that this was brilliant. It was dark, it was creepy, it was scary, and you know, fascism is real, so we need to fight against that, and this book was brilliant at really highlighting that and really pointing it out. And I think that in the UK we like to think we're a wee bit better. You know, when you read about it in the news and it's, you know, black people getting shot by the police, you think America. You know, when it is, you know, anti-trans legislation, again you think America. You don't think it is us, but it is us. You know, we just had the gender recognition bill in Scotland, and the reaction to that was fucking horrific. It made me really realise that even in Scotland, where predominantly we vote more left-wing than the rest of the UK, there are still so many people who are anti-trans here. And like, I think that Brexit really highlighted how racist we are. You know, all the Black Lives Matter stuff, it was a worldwide movement, not just in America, and you know, a lot of racist people came out of the woodwork here as well. And I think that this just really does shine a light on British politics, that if you think we are as liberal and as accepting as we can be, we aren't. Like, we are not. And it's really galling to read, but I think that it is important, because I think if we think that we are fine and we maintain that, oh well, we're fine here, we're alright here, everything's grand, like we're not as bad as somewhere else, we're never going to get true progression or real change. So aye, this was absolutely fantastic. It was a 5-star read for me, and this has been the best book of the year that I have read so far. Absolutely phenomenal. I would encourage every single person who subscribes to me to buy this book and read it. It was phenomenal. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.